One of the most intriguing aspects of multifamily investing is the ability to create generational wealth. Well, today we sit down with Justin Brennan, who is a third generation multifamily investor, but not without his challenges. See, Justin's grandmother did really well investing. His dad did extremely well, but also ran into some financial challenges. So Justin learned from both of those experiences to inform his own investing philosophy. Today, Justin has a $200 million portfolio, and he shares all the lessons he learned along the way to grow and scale and overcome some of the challenges in his path. If you want to learn how to grow and scale your portfolio and get on the path to creating generational wealth, check out today's conversation right here on Multifamily Insights. When you think you found a great deal, asking the right questions could be the difference in finding a stud or a dud. Listen, we've put together a new guide to help you out. It's called 7 Questions You Must Ask Before Investing in Apartments. Now, in this guide, you're going to learn how to uncover red flags, quickly identify underwriting risk, vet sponsors and team members, and confirm key assumptions. Now, this is a guide that's going to help you be a better investor, whether you're an active investor or you're a passive investor looking to partner with other operators. Asking better questions is the key to identifying great opportunities. So download this free guide. Go to our website, casmoncapital.com/7 questions. That's the number 7 questions. And you can access this free guide today. To make it easy on you, though, we've put a link in our show notes. So you go to the show notes, you can click that link and access the guide right now. This guide's going to help you make better investment choices, asking the right questions to build your portfolio. So be sure to download it today. Justin Brennan is a third-generation multifamily investor who rebuilt from his family's $60 million bankruptcy in 2008 to create a $185 million real estate portfolio with over 1,100 apartment units across multiple states. Now, as the founder of the Multifamily School and the Brennan Poll Group Capital, Justin has revolutionized multifamily education by combining hands-on deal experience with community-driven mentorship. Let's welcome to the show, Justin Brennan.
What is up, my man? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Justin, great to have you on. Talked a little bit about your bio and your backstory, which I'm excited to jump into. But why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
Yeah, it's always kind of a sensitive subject or topic because nobody ever wants to talk about, major implosions, I guess you would call it. But, failure is part of the success journey. And anybody, just depending on where you're at and kind of talking to your listeners and, kudos to you and what you're doing here with your podcast. So anybody listening should definitely subscribe and follow and hit the super 5-star button on everything you're doing. And giving people platforms to kind of share and give back. My story, it goes all the way back to when I was probably a younger kid. Some people grow up in the industry, some people don't. Doesn't really matter if you did or don't. My grandmother was kind of the first real estate person in our family. God bless her soul. She was driving around in her little S10 Chevy truck collecting rent until she was 91 years old. And, she didn't have a massive portfolio, but it goes to show you that if you could have even 30, 60 units and control most of that, which she did, with very little debt on them by the time she was at her later years, she was banking it in, right? So you can do that and become extremely wealthy. And so she did well, but she passed that on to my dad. And then my dad was he was the transitional character in our family and, had a really bad upbringing. His dad died when he was 3. His stepdad, not a good stepdad, beat the crap out of him verbally, physically, you name it. So he probably stored a lot of anger from that. And then, he grew up and, went off to Vietnam, try to get the manhood and get the structure in life because it wasn't going the right way for him. And that structured him. It structured him. He was supposed to go over to Vietnam and be kind of the driver of the little Jeeps for the admirals in the Army. He was part of the Army. And it ended up being where they said, "Oh, you're going left, not right." You went left. And they initiated him into being a door gunner in the helicopters and the Hueys, the Chewies or Hueys that, going down inside the rice paddies and get shot up from underneath and all the other crazy stuff that would happen. But, he tells a story occasionally He's saying, Justin, your brother, everybody, you guys were a quarter of an inch from never being born. And we asked why, because they would always sit on bulletproof vests and they would get shot up from underneath. Well, one day they got shot up pretty good, and it came through the helicopter, killed the door gunner on the other side, killed the co-pilot, wounded the pilot, but still could fly. And my dad stopped in the last bulletproof vest. He would sit on 3. Most everybody would sit on 1. And so that's kind of that story. And then fast forward. Yeah, it's crazy, right? And then he comes home and he gets into real estate. So starts with a real estate license, realized that sales hated it, and wanted to start building some stuff. So he just started with building a single family home, then a couple homes, and then got into kind of some small attached product, some condos, some apartments and stuff like that. But then really went big with it. Got into subdivisions and started building 80 homes, 100 homes, and then 200 unit apartment complexes everywhere from Idaho to Las Vegas to Sacramento to Southern California. Went through 3 or 4 market cycles. The 4th one got him though. And that was what you were referencing in the intro, which was the financial crisis of 2008 to 2010. And, at that point, he was very well to do, taught us a lot. I mean, taught us the value of hard work. I mean, we were wealthy growing up, but he took us from 0 to hero, and he became very wealthy. He was very good at making money. He was also good at losing money. It's just because he wasn't formally taught, right? He knew how to go get it. And that was brilliant, because that's half the battle, more than half the battle. He just wasn't educated enough to have foresight to watch markets, know markets, and protect, right? And so got caught, was over leveraged during the financial crisis. And, like you mentioned, at that time he had about $85 million in outstanding, debt and loans and stuff, 20, 30 million in assets, and ended up being a $60 million bankruptcy. And it was devastating to kind of watch that happen. But it taught me a lot too, right? It taught me the value of cash flow, taught me never to over leverage. So that was another big one that came out of that. And then I told myself, when I go do this, I don't want to really be in the build and sell game per se. I want to be more in the cash flow game, which is a little less risky. You can sleep at night. You're buying cash flowing assets, which is where the apartments came in. So we started really in 2010, right in the midst of the financial crisis, and bought our first deal. It was a $100,000 condo, nothing sexy. Thing produced a great little cash on cash return. We took that and kind of leaped into little duplexes and fourplexes and stuff, and accumulated about 20 units, maybe $3.5 million in assets. And so kind of speaking to the people out there, if I could go back and reset that, I would have done the first deal. I wouldn't change that. What I would change is the second deals onward. I wouldn't have gotten into the duplexes and fourplexes. That's the small ball game. And once you realize the value of OPM, other people's money, along with your money, this is how you scale, right? This is how you can literally, anybody here listening, watching, you can go out and buy a 10 to 30 unit apartment building in the next 90 days with $30,000 out of pocket. You control it, you run it, and you're the head honcho of it. And you're going to do that with some of your money in conjunction with other people's money who want to invest alongside you. And that kind of spurred and changed everything that we do today.
Justin, love your story, man. Obviously, a lot you've learned from your family. You talk about 3 generations. Your grandma, I'm picturing her driving around that old Chevy S10 pickup truck collecting rent. But that really set the foundation. And your father obviously learned a lot from there, had his own hardships and lessons learned through life. But he was an investor, did well, extremely well, being able to generate wealth and create opportunities. But obviously got caught up in 2008 during the last financial crisis. Ended up going to bankruptcy for $60 million. And you mentioned that you took away a couple of lessons. One you didn't say, which I think is worth stating. You knew the value of real estate. I think sometimes people have these things happen and they shy away from the asset class completely, right? Like, oh, real estate's bad. My dad was in it, made money and got wiped out, right? And they shut her down and just think the whole thing is bad, or you saw your mom lose her house or anything like that.
Yep.
I want to acknowledge the fact that that's not what you said. You said, hey, real estate works. That strategy has some holes in it, which left them exposed. And you said the big lesson for you was the value of cash flow. And then the second lesson that you took away was on leverage and not being over leveraged. So when you started investing in 2010, coming out of the other side of the financial crisis, you started with the condo, then moved on to smaller residential properties, 2 units, 4 units, before ultimately getting into multifamily. And if you could go back, the one thing you would do differently is actually expand quicker into commercial multifamily, as opposed to spending all that time on duplexes and fourplexes, knowing that you can partner with other people, raise capital, and be able to expand and grow faster. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's a great setup for us to get into more of this conversation. Take me back to 2010. Your father's, a little bit removed off of filing bankruptcy, going from making a lot of money in the real estate space to losing a lot of it. You decide to make the investment, the first investment. What was going through your head? What was going through your life prior to making this investment, and what gave you the confidence to start investing?
Yeah. And maybe if I can speak to any of the real estate agents out there who are helping transact with people, for people, you are the creme de la creme, because yes, you should be helping people transact and get wealthy and have their homes and investment properties, but you need to be doing it for yourself. And so the reason why this is so important is I'm sitting in a conference in 2009, a year before we bought our first property. And it was a Tom Ferry conference. So he was kind of like a big real estate coach. And I'll never forget it. He comes out on stage and he's getting everybody riled up. And he comes out and there's like 5,000 people in the audience. And he's like, okay, who here in the audience? And this is 5,000 realtors, by the way. And this is 2009, right in the heart of the financial crisis. Everybody's getting hosed, right? Who here wants to buy rental income property? Everybody's hands raised up. Everybody's like, yeah. All right. Okay, great. Who here financially right now could go buy one today? Like 99% of the hands go down, right? Because everybody's getting hosed. And he says, here's the secret you are all missing. He says, you don't have to have a single dime to own rental income property. He says, you just need to have friends who have the ability to own rental income property. He says, you're the realtor with a license. You can find great deals. You can analyze them. You can put them together. You can structure them. You can manage. You can control. You are bringing in a massive ability of what they call sweat equity to the picture that is extremely valuable to somebody who has money, who wants to do what you want to do, your abilities, but they can't. So therefore, a beautiful yin and yang. You're bringing the sweat, they're bringing the check. It's called sweat equity or check equity. You choose. And if you can bring both, great. Most people can't. Most people bring one or the other. And so that light bulb went off for me. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting hosed. I don't have check equity right now. But I said, I do have the sweat. I have the ability to go find great deals, put them together, structure them, probably raise some money, manage them, run the company, do all this extremely valuable stuff. So he's like, you just need to think of somebody that's in your network, maybe you know them, maybe you don't quite yet, who probably has a little bit of money, who can't do what you can do, that you can go partner with. And that started our company, Brennan Polley Capital. And I went to my buddy, Christopher Polley. I said, Chris, you're in the tech industry. I'm in real estate. I'm getting hosed. I don't have the down payment. I can't sign on the loan right now. You can. But I said, you can't go find the deals. You can't analyze them. You can't manage them. You can't do all the stuff I'm going to do. I'm going to go do everything. You're going to collect checks. And then we're going to create our company and split it 50-50. And that's how Brennan Polley Capital was started. And that was back in 2010. And I went from one condo to over 1,200 units. And here we are today.
Man, I love it, right? You started with that conference, and this is why these things are so important. We talk about education and investing in yourself, and I'm sure you didn't wake up that morning realizing that you're going to hear something that was going to change your financial trajectory. Maybe you hoped it, right? I think every time we go to these events, you hope there's going to be something that sparks you or gives you an insight, but you never know when it's going to happen. But you were there, you put yourself in the room, and you recognize the value that you brought to the table. And that's so great, because I think oftentimes we don't give ourselves the credit. Maybe up to that point before you heard Tom Ferry talk about it, maybe you didn't see yourself in that light. But when he talks about You're the one analyzing deals all day long, right? You're the one that's bringing these opportunities to your clients. You're the one that's going to put in the sweat equity. You don't have to do it all by yourself, right? If you bring the sweat equity, you just need to pair with someone who can bring the check equity. And that is how you grow and scale and get started. You had that person in mind. You had your pitch ready for that individual. They saw the value and the opportunity, and you were able to go out there and build. And for our listeners, that's something you got to be thinking about. If you are not in a position today to bring both the sweat equity and the check equity, well, who can you partner with? Who is interested in what you have to offer? Who do you know that's interested in real estate, but maybe they don't have the time and energy to learn all the stuff you're learning? They're not going to listen to all these podcasts like you've been doing, right? They're not going to binge them all and watch all the YouTube videos and everything else, but you've got that knowledge. You've got the resources. You just need the help, right? You need the cash. And that's where you can build a beautiful partnership. And you guys started small, right? You started with a condo. So it's not like you went out there and did a 200 unit, syndication deal. It sounds like you guys started with that condo, right?
Well, yeah, because I didn't understand how money works. I didn't understand the OPM game. I didn't understand that, oh, wait, I don't need to use all of our money. We can do it with other people too, OPM, other people's money. And that really didn't kick in until 2018. So to kind of show you how fast this can work if you learn it the correct way, is from 2010 to 2018, 8 years go by. Because we're doing it all with our own money. This is how it shows you if you do it all on your own, you go slow. You may get there, but you're not going to scale because we only got to 20 units and 3.5 million. Now, for most people, you're like, oh, that's great. Cool. Like you're set and it's all with your own money. Yes, that's true. But we wanted more. We wanted to scale. We wanted to go bigger. We just couldn't do it because all of our money was stuck in these deals. So then I had to go and kind of learn this OPM game. So I went to it once again, syndication conference, right? That taught me, okay, here's some people that want to invest. Here's some people that can do it. Here's all the pieces of the puzzle to link it all together. Here's some connections, and then you hear the quotes, the more hands you shake, the more money you make. If anybody's heard that one or not heard that one, you either remember that one. You always buy when there's blood in the street, even if it's your blood, right? So that's when it started in 2010. And so, everybody has these moments in your life, I would say, where you begin to reflect on where you're at. Maybe you're not moving at the speed you want to go. You're not where you want to be, either financially, personally, whatever it may be. And you start to realize, oh, you don't know how much time you got, right? And so for me, it was 2018. So this was the moment where we'd gone and gotten our little portfolio and we were cool, but we wanted more. I didn't know how to do this and I was scared. I was playing small ball. Like I was staying in the comfort zone where everybody sits because it's like, oh, okay, it's all right here in this comfort zone. But I wanted more. We wanted more. I was just scared to leap. And then here we are. You have this defining moment. So for everybody, it's different. For me, it was losing a family member, right? Tragedy. And it was my sister. And she passed in 2018 in May and 46 years old, right? Very difficult autoimmune disease. And it's hard. It's hard to watch that happen. But it's also one of those moments that you sit there going, okay, you don't know when it's my time. And are we going to go for this thing? Or are we just going to sit here and play small ball for the rest of our lives and play comfort zone for the rest of our lives? Because my biggest fear is being on my deathbed at 80, having to have a conversation with my 40-year-old self and having to tell that 40-year-old self, dude, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't go for it. I'm sorry that I was chicken shit, right? And I didn't want to leap out and make things happen. I wanted to play in my little, game because I had kids, I had this, I had that. I had all these other responsibilities. I kept coming up with excuses and playing the victim game. So there we are, 2018. I'm literally scrolling through Facebook and I come across an ad for a syndication conference and it was completely across the country in Boston, Massachusetts. And I said, you know what? F it. Here we go. Boom. Bought my ticket, bought the most expensive ticket I could because I was always told get the best ticket in the room so you can get and shake hands with the best people. Fly completely across the country, go to this conference, 3,000 people. I'm sitting up there meeting and greeting people, learning a ton. And some people will sit in a room like that and have like imposter syndrome thinking, oh gosh, like look at all these people. I can't do this. And I sat in that room and I'm going, holy crap. if these people on stage can pull this off, I mean, they're not the smartest tools in the shed, if you know what I mean. And they're multimillionaires. I said, if they can do this, holy crap. The only thing stopping me is the 7 inches between my ears, right? It's the stories I keep telling myself and the bullshit, the BS. So I came back from that conference. I'd met a few people and I said, we're going for this. I said, we're absolutely, I can do this 100%. And so I linked up with a couple of people, but I said, we had to go out of California. We had to make our money go farther because California was tough. And I said, we need our dollar to go farther. And so we refinanced a couple of our smaller deals, pulled the cash out, kept the properties, pulled the cash out, and then went into the Midwest. And our first deal was a 27-unit apartment complex in Kansas City, Missouri. And we took it down with ourselves. We brought in, just to give you perspective, this goes to show you how you can do this with $30,000 out of pocket. We go in, we put in 75 grand. This is a $2.2 million, 27-unit apartment building. We raise with 7 other people about 800 and something thousand bucks, right? We control about 40% of it for bringing in 10% of the money. We own 100% of the control. So we control 100% of it, but we get 40% of the cash flow, 40% of the profits, 40% of all the stuff for bringing in only 10% of the money because we're running the show. The rest of the money comes from everybody else. And just to show you how that scales, remember, we had 100% of $3.5 million. We took that and moved it to where now we have 40% of 200 million. So you can do the math. I mean, it speaks for itself, but that's how you scale money. And that's what I learned very quickly. And then somebody else told me, they said, how much, like, you know, all the rich people know this, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, how much of Tesla does Elon Musk own? Less than 10%. Richest guy in the world. Clearly he knows something. Jeff Bezos, how much of Amazon does he own? Less than 15%. Mark Zuckerberg, how much of Meta does he own? Less than 10%. An NVIDIA guy that owns an NVIDIA. Oracle guy. How much of those companies? Less than 15%. They all understand they need to take their money with other people's money, and that's how you scale. That's how you get rich. Trying to do it on your own, I'm not saying you can't pull it off. It's going to be a lot harder. You may go a lot slower. You may kick yourself in the you-know-what. Learn the game of OPM, other people's money, so you can scale. Everybody wants to invest in real estate. That's not your problem. It's just you need to find a good deal that makes sense, and then they need to like you. Right?
Justin, I love what you hit on, man. You first of all talk about the conference and just education. And it's so important because opportunity shows up and sometimes you can scroll right past it and it showed up on your phone. You know, the syndication conference. A lot of people see that. Maybe they say, oh, it's interesting. Oh, it's in Boston. Never mind. And you keep moving. But you didn't. Something told you, let's do it. Let's buy this ticket. Let's get the best ticket. Let's go fly halfway across the country and we're going to go and do this thing. And you got some insight, you know, while you're sitting there. And I love what you talked about. You know, you're sitting there watching these guys on stage, guys and gals on stage, and you say, if they can do it, I damn sure can do it. And I love that. And it's not disrespectful, but that's the beautiful thing about real estate investing is you see it as a great equalizer. It doesn't care what college you went to or how many degrees you have or any of that kind of stuff. It really comes down to understanding your market, deals, and a little bit of grit. You know, you talked about networking, just building connections and building relationships. And that's such a key component to drive success. So when you got back, that was the conversation you had with your partners. Fast forward, you do that deal in Kansas City, 27 units, you buy it for $2.2 million, only $30,000 of your own capital, raise $800,000. And that really set the standard and kind of the framework for what you've been able to do since then, investing in over $200 million of apartments with your partners. As you kind of step back and you now coach people, you educate other folks on how to do the same thing. When you reflect on your story, where do you see most people get tripped up? Like, what are they not doing that you did that you wish they would do?
It's just consistent discipline. It's consistent discipline because I usually the objections I'll hear a lot is, okay, I want to make $10,000 to $20,000 a month doing this. How many deals do I need to get in order to make that happen? The answer is 3 to 4. So 3 to 4, 10 to 30 unit apartment buildings will generate $10,000 to $20,000 a month for you, net, every single month. Okay. And then the next question I get is, well, dude, I'm busy. Okay, I got a job, I got kids, I got soccer, I got this, I got that. Listen, those are bullshit excuses. Okay, I was in the real estate industry as a luxury real estate agent for 10 years. I was 100% commissioned. I didn't have a W-2. I wasn't collecting no Friday paycheck. I was collecting nothing. It was a show to show up, get things done, or you're going dead and you're going bankrupt. So I'm going to work 10 hours a day as a realtor, getting things done. I come home, got family time. I got kids, I got this, I got that. Perfect. They go to bed around 8:30. Dad is on the computer for about 1 to 2 hours a night, looking for deals, analyzing them, writing offers, looking for deals, analyzing them, writing offers. And you get in that cycle until boom, the first one hits, and then you make it happen. The other thing I would say is, trying to do it alone and not do it in some form of community. People get into community, people get into learning from others to collapse time and collapse mistakes. That's all I can tell you. And it's just finding the right person, a right group, right community that you can do that in, or you feel like it's the right group doing it. But that would be my recommendation for that, because you want to collapse time and you want to collapse mistakes. And that's why you get into that stuff, to learn it, because it is complex, right? Trying to do apartments is a little bit more than single family. It's more than flipping a house. It's more than a rental. It's more than a short-term rental, but it's also the bigger game. And you can have 3 of those deals and be done for the rest of your life. You could have one big one, but most people, I say, start a little smaller, 10 to 30 units. You'll execute.
I love that point of community, right? It's so important to surround yourself with the right people. And I mean, it's a thing, when I talk to people all the time, community comes up. If you don't have that community, from family or just your friends and family or whatever, you got to go find it. It's out there. But, when I was starting out, it was attending a lot of meetups. It was going to RIA events, but I had to manufacture that community. Then it was going online to websites like Bigger Pockets and starting to meet and connect with people there before ultimately joining and hiring a coach and joining mastermind groups and things like that. But you've got to surround yourself with people who are playing the game for the reasons you said. You want to really shorten up the mistakes, eliminate the ones if you can. If you can avoid them, great. But if you do make mistakes, you don't want them to be colossal mistakes, right? You want to be things that are smaller in nature, or things that you can work around or learn from other people. And being involved and being a part of a community is the best way to do that. I want to go back to the investing side. You mentioned that you were out in California. You bought this deal in Kansas City. Most people would say, hey, if it's under 100 units or under 75 units, it's really hard to manage when you're out of state. How are you able to manage that 27 unit and kind of these small to mid-size apartment communities if you are not local?
Yeah. So the first thing you need to do is identify your market. So let's presume you identified it. Then the second thing you're going to do is you're going to set up, if you're doing it out of state, you're going to set up about a 3-day trip before you're even doing any deals out there. You're going to fly out there and you're going to meet. You're going to meet 3 different brokers. You're going to tour 3 different properties. You're going to meet property managers from those brokers. Then you're going to meet construction crews from those property managers. You're going to meet lenders that do local financing in that market from the brokers. Okay, they are the gatekeepers. The commercial real estate industry, unlike residential, there's only 2 ways for you to find deals. There's only 2. Direct to broker or direct to the owner. That is it. There's not like some fugazi in the sky. But they're the gatekeepers. And the most efficient approach is the direct to broker approach. But what people don't understand, people know this, most good deals are pre-market, right? I mean, you know that they're not the one on the websites. They're not the ones that are on market per se. It's the pre-market stuff. Most people just don't know how to get to those. So you have to learn that process of how to get to the brokers, get behind the scenes a little bit, get access to what I call it the pre-market inventory, because that's where about 80% of all the deals that make sense, that's where they sell. And there's a process to do that. So that's what we did. Set up a little kind of team in that market in Kansas City. So where now I'd feel comfortable. So now we go get deals. Now I have the construction crews in the market. I got the property manager lined up in the market. I have the brokers in the market. I have the lender in the market. Little team is ready to go. So now I'm not catching my tail when deals start to come. And we put cameras on all of our buildings. So I can pull it up on my phone 24/7 and I can see what's going on and have just peace of mind knowing that the building isn't burnt down. right? And that's how it works, right? You just manage from afar. But knowing how to hire good property managers, how to find them, all that process happens in the pre-phase before you actually are ever doing a deal.
Justin, that's a great tip, right? You want to make sure you're doing that research up front. A mistake I see so many investors make is they just start looking at deals anywhere USA because they just got on someone's list and they start analyzing a deal and asking, what do you think? And I'm like, what do you know about this market? Nothing. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I can pull numbers anywhere, but
Yeah.
if you don't know the market, if you don't understand what renovation is needed to a property, if you can't really vet your business plan, you're just playing with a spreadsheet. I mean, the numbers are straight BS because you can't verify any of it. So it starts with the market. And your point was go in, do a 3-day trip, meet with brokers, meet with lenders, meet with property managers, meet with contractors, and get a sense of who your team members will be. So as you start to look at deals and as you're analyzing opportunities, you also have that team in place, not just to help you say, yep, we can do it, but they're going to vet the deal. They're going to give you their feedback. They can be a part of that due diligence process. And then ultimately, when you go and buy that asset, now you got your people in place. You can go out there. You said something that's really, really important. And it's something that I struggled with when I first bought out of market. I was living in Chicago, bought a 28-unit building in Cincinnati. And initially, we had a hard time verifying stories. My contractor would tell me one thing, my property manager would tell me something else. And we ended up having to spend a lot of time trying to figure out who's on first, and I ended up coming into the city a lot and realized, hey, we just didn't have the right team in place. But you mentioned the thing with cameras. That was something we actually did. We installed cameras throughout, and there was a cool app where I could see what was going on at the property. And I remember one time I saw something come on the camera and I had to call my PM like, hey, I don't know who this guy is roaming around the back, but can you get somebody over there to take a look? And the police ended up coming out. And I watched the whole thing. It was like 20 minutes. I just sat there watching when the police finally showed up.
Like watching the crime happen.
Oh, it's like watching. Yeah, exactly. And it ended up not being a major issue. Someone was looking for their cat. But again, there's no audio, so you can't quite make out what's happening. But you mentioned the camera. That seems like a really great insight, a great tip. What other little nuggets would you share with our audience if you are trying to manage properties from out of market?
Yeah, the cameras are good. Having the team set up. Those are the big ones because most people, if you're fortunate enough, you're in a good market, like you live in a good market, so you can actually find deals locally. But this is the process to start it. Like if you're just sitting there going, okay, what markets are good to invest in? Because I get that question all the time. What's a good market to invest in? So you always want to invest within 25 miles of a top 100 MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area. Okay. You can literally go on Google, heck, go to Chat GPT these days. I'd recommend even Chat. Say, hey, Chat, give me the top 100 MSAs in the United States for investing in multifamily apartment buildings. And it's going to list them. Put it in a list for me. Great. Now I want you to break that down. And I want you to look at 3 things: population growth, job growth, and median household income. And I want you to rank these top 100 based on percentage growth the last 3 years, show me the trend, in the next 3 years in projections. Put it in a table format and show me the growth trends and rank these from 1 to 100. And that's going to tell you everything you need to know. And then you narrow it down. Maybe you live in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Sweet, dude. You're in a top 100 and you're in a good one. You want to be within 25 to 30 miles of that main hub, and you can invest anywhere inside of there. The reason why you do 25 to 30 miles is because the banks like to lend within 25 to 30 miles of a main metro, right? It's just better for job growth, population growth, and household income because they know they're not worried about when times are good. They're worried about when times go into recession. What happens when recessions happen? People do what? They move to job centers. Those job centers are closer to the hubs in those main metros. So you don't want to be too far. You can be within 25, 30 miles because people will still live 25, 30 miles and drive in. You go any farther than that, what happens? People start moving. So then all these out Timbuktu markets, right? They go vacant. That's why lenders start charging more interest rates. You get better You get worse financing terms. If you're the further you're away from 100 MSA, your lending terms are going to be worse. So you're 25 to 30 miles within a top 100 MSA, you'll be good to go. And then pick the one you like the most.
There you go. Focus on population growth. We're looking at the job growth. Really good insights there. 25 miles, close to the top 100 MSA. Great insight there, Justin. Justin, for our listeners who want to learn more, you're really active on YouTube. So we would ask everyone to go check you out there. Go to YouTube. His YouTube page is Justin Brennan Multifamily. You can just kind of search that on YouTube and check out some of this great content he has there. Right now, we're going to transition and go to a round of insights. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmoncapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmoncapital.com and click on the mastermind button today. Justin, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
We had a deal 2 years ago when the interest rates started to go crazy in 2022. And we were in escrow. This was a 200 unit, $33 million deal. We had about $500,000 hard at this point, past our due diligence period. None of the investors' money was at risk yet. It was all of ours with our partners. And we had technically a total of $800,000 with all the due diligence money. The deal started getting worse and worse and worse as interest rates began to keep going up. As everybody remembers, in March 2022, the Fed started raising interest rates pretty much every week. And it went up 11 times in 9 months, right? It was unbelievable. I presume they were going up, just not like that. So we had to make some very difficult decisions. And what I thought was going to be one of the greatest failures that turned into one of the greatest wins was knowing when to do the right thing. Because we could have closed on that deal and put a square peg in a round hole and risked not only our $800,000 at that point, but now $12 million of investor money with it. So that was option A. Or pull out of the deal, knowing that intuitively I knew it was getting worse and we may end up handing the keys back to the bank anyways in 2 years from now. Meanwhile, also risking $12 million of our investor money, knowing full well it could go south, right? In good conscience, I couldn't do that. And so it took me 2 weeks. I finally made a call in the morning, talked to our partners, and I said, guys, I can't do this. I can't knowingly put our investors and everybody else in that situation. You know it, I know it. We all agreed, okay, we're going to go lose $800,000, us as partners. We're going to suck it up and take it in the shorts. And we did. And that was one of the hardest business decisions I've ever made in my life, to walk away from $800,000. That is a lot of money that we could not lose. Fast forward about 2 months after we walked away from that, we had another deal come up that was an absolute home run, completely off market, that was given to us. So it was 80 units. All of that money that was going to be in that deal, those 200 units, came over to that new deal. All of it. And they said, the reason we're doing it is because of how you handled that. Most people wouldn't take it in the shorts like that. You guys did. And it taught us everything we needed to know. That was it. And that thing's a home run, by the way.
I love it, man. I appreciate you sharing that. I think it just goes back to underscoring how important it is to do the right thing, right? There's a quote that I love. It's, values aren't values until it costs you money. And I think you just underscored that right there. I appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah.
All right. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for our listeners.
So in terms of starting to find brokers, if you don't have a Rolodex of brokers, go onto the websites, whether it's LoopNet or Crexy.com. I use Crexy.com. That's always a good starting point. Not for finding deals. All the deals stink on there, and you know that. You're using it to find brokers. You're using it to go into the market that you're interested in. You're going to locate, pull up all the properties, and you're going to see who are the brokers in there that are seemingly having the most listings, because those are the market makers. And you're going to use that resource online to now get access to make the phone calls to meet the brokers behind the scenes. Because those brokers, for every deal they have listed on the website, they have 3 or 4 that they're working on pre-market.
All right, give me the book you recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
The Power of One More by Ed Milet and Atomic Habits by
James Clear.
James Clear.
Good. Awesome.
Those 2 have been instrumental in putting me in the right framework to have a resilient mind. I would say that that's another trait that you can learn. Obviously, life experiences put you in that as well. I mean, going through all the stuff I've gone through and seeing it made me very resilient. It's crazy, but yeah, what do they say? Tough times make good men, or whatever. There's that quote that's out there, and it's true. It's true, man. You can quiver and go into a corner and tuck tail, or when times get tough, you stand up, you put your big boy pants on, you step out front like a leader, and you'll find out real quick. You'll find out real quick who's got the what.
There you go. Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Yeah, I have a pretty stringent morning routine, and it always comes down to finishing it with a prayer letter. So I'm waking up at 5, make the bed. After I make the bed, I do 10 push-ups. After I do 10 push-ups, I come downstairs, I fill up my Stanley water bottle. After I fill up the Stanley water bottle, I'll get a cup of coffee. After I get the coffee, I'm sitting down and meditating for 10 minutes. After I'm meditating for 10 minutes, I have an app called Think Up, where you can actually record in your own voice your affirmations, and then you play them back to yourself. And I do that every single morning. It's a free app, by the way. There's a paid version, but it's free. Then I have what I think is the most powerful thing anybody can have. And this was taught to me a few years ago about manifestation, because the big mistake people make about manifestation is they think that you can just ask the universe for something and it's somehow just going to show up. What they're not understanding is that in order for that to work, you have to change your state, your story, and then your strategy. So what do I mean by that? You have to speak into existence and ask as though it's already happening. So my prayer letter is in the present tense, something like this. And mine's, 1 page long. Thank you, God, for bringing such amazing abundance into my life and creating this kind of money that I can feel in my bank account and putting this. It's very specific, but you're speaking as though it's already there, dude. And you're creating the energy and the frequencies. And then it goes out to the universe. The universe does crazy things, as you know. But what people miss is when the universe starts to deliver to you, you're not paying attention. Let me give you one example. We'll finish on this. I wanted to start doing ADUs. These are accessory dwelling units in San Diego this year. So at the beginning of the year, I started speaking that. Thank you so much for creating opportunities for me to go find deals in San Diego where I could build ADUs in the backyard and blah, blah, blah. About a month after doing that, I'm sitting in a doctor's office in the waiting room, getting ready to go back to see my doctor. I'm sitting there, a guy comes in, it's just he and I in the waiting room. He sits across the room, he's on the phone. He's talking to somebody on the phone about a property that he owns up around San Diego State University. That's probably a great opportunity for building ADUs on it, but he's looking to sell it. Like he's not going to do it himself. If I'm not paying, see where I'm getting at is I'm sending the frequencies out. The universe just delivered it into the waiting rate. If I'm not paying attention and I just sit there and don't do anything about that, and then I complain that the universe isn't helping me out, that's my fault. The universe opened the door, cracked it. It's my job now to take some action, as you know. So as he gets off the phone, I said, sir, I don't mean to interrupt you and overhear a conversation, but you're talking about some property up and blah, 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 blah. I'm looking to buy stuff like that. I don't know if this could even work out, but can I take a look at it? Boom. You see how that works?
I love it.
That's where people miss, is they just think like, oh, ask for it. It's just going to make boom in the sky and fall on my forehead. No, you'll ask for it, but you need to do it in the frame of mind with a good state, right? Good story. Allow the universe to show up for you. When it shows up, your ass better take action. You're asked, better take action, because if you don't, then don't complain when you think things ain't happening for you. It's because you just aren't taking the action correctly. That's the difference. That's what separates people making it and not.
That kind of leads into the next question, which is, so your number one insight for scaling a multifamily portfolio?
You create a database of people, because literally, the more hands you shake, the more money you make. Do not ask people for money. Provide them an opportunity. Okay. You never have to worry about raising money if you have a good deal and people trust you. So how does that happen? You never ask people for money. I never go around asking people for money. I just let them know what I'm doing. I provide an opportunity, and I ask them who they know that may have interest. You see how I'm switching it?
Mm-hmm.
So I would never come to you, John, and say, hey, John, I have this 15-unit apartment building. We're raising blah, 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 blah. Yeah, do you have 50 grand that you want to put into it? I would never ask you that. I'd say, hey, John, I have this 15-unit deal I'm looking at, blah, blah, blah. Who do you know? They may have some interest in this thing. Here's the kind of the summary of it, and blah, blah, blah. And then you say, oh, yeah, I don't know, man, but send me over some information. I'll take a look at it. Right? That's probably what you would say. Oh, just send me over some information. So I'm going to send you over the pitch deck. Right? And you're going to look at that. And then I'll follow up with you and say, hey, John, do you know anybody that may have some interest? We're going to be closing here in about 60 days, blah, blah, blah. What'll end up happening is, if it's a good deal and it makes good sense, either you'll reference it to somebody else, or you're going to say, well, Justin, why didn't you ask me? Like, I got 25 grand. I'd like to throw at this thing. You see how, but if the deal sucks, it ain't going to work. The deal's got to be good. That's the number one driver. And then after that, you need a good pitch deck that helps kind of summarize the deal. And then from that, a process. So if you say, yeah, I want to give you 25 grand, you got to have the process to bring that money into the bank account for the property. And when those three, that's it. I mean, that's obviously high level. There's a lot of detail in that, but that's the high level.
Yep. No, great stuff. And the thing too, Justin, is great about that approach is you remove the awkwardness of asking that person to invest and kind of putting them on the spot. Right. Either they have somebody else who wants to invest, maybe it isn't of interest to them, maybe they can't think of anyone, but it makes it a much easier conversation for the other person to either give you a contact, to decide they want to invest themselves, or to say, hey man, sorry, I don't have anybody in mind. So it's an easy way to kind of keep the relationship going, where you're not putting them on the spot and making them make a decision there.
You're basically pulling the sale away, right? Because everybody wants to invest in real estate. That's not your problem. Everybody wants to invest in real estate. That is not your problem. It's, do you have a good deal that's going to give them good returns? And do I trust you that if I give you my money, right, you're going to do everything you can in your power to make sure we're not on an American Greed show in 2 years. Right.
And you're already lighting the mood, but I'm going to keep it going, man. So you're out there in the West Coast of Cali. Give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Oh, gosh, man. There are so many, but one of the great places in San Diego would be probably George's at the Cove in La Jolla. Great spot. Right on the water, right in the cove, overlooking the ocean. It's one of the most beautiful states in the world, that's for sure. May have some strange things going on here, but it's beautiful.
George's of the Cove, great option there. I know you're out in Vegas today as we're recording this, but based out in San Diego. You give us a lot of great stuff, Justin. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your family's background. As I still got this picture of your grandma just driving around picking up checks. And, that your dad, his life experiences, getting into real estate, becoming a developer, having a lot of success, but also over leveraging and running into the financial crisis, and all the things you learned through that process, learning the importance of cash flow, learning the importance of proper leverage, and also being able to grow and scale in OPM. And the big takeaway for me is just being mindful about what you're looking for and being willing to ask for help. And part of this mindfulness is putting yourself in situations. For you, it was conferences, going back to the Tom Ferry conference where he gave you the idea or planted that seed to say, you might, bring the sweat equity, someone else is bringing the check equity. Why don't you focus on that? And you ran with it. Coming back to the syndication conference where you learned that, hey, you don't have to do this all yourself with your own money. You can partner with OPM, other people's money. You kind of took that, you ran with it. And the big thing is you took action. And for all of our listeners here in this show, you've heard me talk about even little things like leaving a rating review or sharing this episode with someone who you think can find value of it, following Justin on, or subscribing to his YouTube channel. Those are not huge asks, but they still are taking action. And you've got to get to the point where you're taking action. If you got any good value from this conversation, take action. What's one thing you can do now that you can, use to propel yourself forward? Those are the things that separate the people who find success and the people who don't. So make sure you're taking action from Justin's conversation today and move yourself and your real estate portfolio forward. Justin, again, thanks again for being a great guest and coming to Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you and hope you have a great day.